Hello and welcome to the middle. My name's Trent. So 2 years ago, I was at this party. And at this party, I met a girl in a big brown hat. Now, a little bit of context to my story. I moved to California where I was at this party because Katy Perry told me the girls out there were so much better. So, at this party, see this beautiful girl in the big brown hat. And I mean stunner. 10 out of 10. Woo-wee! Here's the catch. She's been dating this dude for 10 years, and that dude is a professional surfer. So, not looking good for me. Fast forward to tomorrow, she's giving birth to my baby. Yeah, true story. Well, partly true. She might not give birth tomorrow, but she is very pregnant and could potentially give birth tomorrow. So why do I tell you this? And how did I get the girl? Well, you'll just have to keep listening to figure that out. So 2 questions for you, middle. How does Trent get the girl? What do you think? I want to hear your answers. The second is, what does a person need in order to have healthy relationships?
All right, guys. So Trent asked, how do you think he got the girl? And what does a person need in order to have healthy relationships? Owen, what did you think? And then we'll go Drew, Morgan, London.
Okay, so I kind of said that he swooned somebody with his great music ability that he may or may not have. Can't confirm that. But seems pretty romantic. Trent seems like the kind of guy to do that. Bet he could do it. And then for the other question, I said compassion and ownership are kind of 2 things you really need in a healthy relationship. And if you can be understanding of somebody's mistakes and help them through that, and also keep show ownership of your mistakes. And I feel like if both people do that, that would be a really healthy relationship to have.
Solid, yeah. It's good.
I said I just thought that he was just gonna be a good guy, and that's how he got the girl. And then I also said to have a healthy relationship that you need to be trustworthy and you need to understand the other person and help them with whatever they need. That was the main part of what I had, being understanding and trusting each other.
Love it.
So I said that I thought that he just would wait for God's timing until he felt like it was right for him to go up to her and just kind of start that friendship. And then for the other question, I said that loyalty is a huge thing in healthy relationships, because if someone's wants to confide in you, that you need to be able to keep that and not betray their trust. Another thing is listening, because I know in healthy relationships, in my friendships, I really want to be heard. And I know that I just want to be able to hear the other people and whenever they're trying to share stuff with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that, if Trent had that mustache back then, that's definitely how he got the girl. But I think that as far as healthy relationships go, I think that kindness and selflessness are really 2 big key things in that. Kind of putting the other person before yourself, looking for what they want, what they need before you look at what you want. And I think that also just overall kindness and being kind to the other person, being able to let the other person be themselves around you and vice versa, creates a really healthy relationship.
Yeah, I love that. Those are some great answers. So we're going to continue the conversation. I'm going to pass it back to Trent, and he's going to keep on teaching.
You guys had some sweet answers. I especially liked, I don't know, I haven't seen your answers yet, but I'm going to pick one at some point. Those are good and all, but I want to dive into awareness. Spoiler alert, boys, I didn't get the girl by being great at video games. Nope, that's not how I got her. But we'll just have to keep listening to find that out. Awareness is the key to healthy relationships. I want to dive into a story from one of my teachers to kind of break down why I believe awareness is the key to healthy relationships. So this is a story from my teacher, Jesus. It's recorded in the book of Matthew. Let's listen to what it says. But when the fancy pastors of Jesus' day silenced a different group of fancy pastors in Jesus' day, they gathered around him, and one of them, who was a lawyer, tested him with this question: "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law?" And Jesus looked at him and said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself." On these two commandments depend all of the law and the prophets. So that's just a fancy way of Jesus saying, if you do these two things, that's all you need. You need to love God and love your neighbor. There's a ton to unpack here, but let's hone in on these words. Love your neighbor as yourself. So what Jesus does not mean is, well, I really like it when people just tell me what I want to hear, and so I'm going to just tell everyone what they want to hear and never tell the truth. Not what Jesus is meaning. The second thing that Jesus does not mean is, man, I really want everyone to buy me a pony, so I guess I have to buy everyone a pony. These words of Jesus are not so that we can be selfish. These words from Jesus are for us to put ourselves in the shoes of our neighbor. So Trent, how are you supposed to love your neighbor as yourself then? You've just told me all the things I shouldn't do with that. So what does he mean? Well, let's get into that. This is where awareness comes into play. When Jesus talks about loving your neighbor as yourself, he is asking us to understand what we would need if we were in the circumstances of our neighbor. This is awareness. So, question for you guys: when was a time where someone was aware of what you needed and stepped in to meet those needs?
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Trent just asked, what was a time when someone was aware of what you needed and met that need? So London, let's going to start with you. Go ahead.
Yeah, one time in particular that really stands out to me is that one day at school I was having a really bad day. The night before, I had gotten news that one of my loved ones was really sick, and one of my best friends kind of noticed that I wasn't being my happy, chipper self that I normally was, because I was kind of keeping it all to myself. And she asked me what was wrong. I kind of gave her like a 3-word answer, but she still knew exactly what to do. So the next class period, she walked into the room with a gigantic cup of what she called emotional support Cheez-Its. And more than just the deliciousness of the Cheez-Its that helped me, it was kind of just the knowing that she cared about me enough to think that would be exactly what I needed. So that was
That's awesome
for me.
Mm-hmm. For me, one of the things, like recently during quarantine, like finishing finals week and everything, I was under a lot of stress and like dealing with some anxiety. And one of the girls in my core group FaceTimed me and was asking, is there anything that I can pray for you? Just like talk to me, like what's happening, what can I help? And it was just so nice that like I knew I could depend on her to be there for me. And she's been like asking me every week what I can, like what I need that she can pray for. And I just think that's so amazing.
That is amazing. That's awesome.
One time that someone was aware of my needs and helped me was with quarantine happening, I was having more trouble with my assignments at school. So my parents saw that I was having trouble. I was being a little bit more aggravated easy, and they ended up helping me with the assignment and like helping me get the things, taking time out of their day to help me with that. And that was
That's
very
amazing. Yeah, that's good.
So for mine, I couldn't really think of like one specific thing, but I know a lot of times when I'm like not feeling myself, I'm just not that happy, I've had a bad day. My parents do a really good job of just letting me be, and if I want to talk to them, they're really easy to talk to, and they just help me a lot through one of those days.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, those are great stories, guys. Thanks so much for sharing. I'm going to pass it back to Trent, and he's going to keep doing his thing.
All right, so let's unpack awareness through the story that I started telling you about how I got the girl, okay? So 4 months after this party that I met the beautiful girl in the big brown hat, the stunner, the beautiful one, she shows up at my church. Boyfriend already dumped.
He was a skater boy.
Oh, I'm just a kid on Christmas, right? Like, I didn't have to do anything. I just had to wait. So, unlike Leroy Jenkins,
Percentage of survival.
Oh, it's a lot better than we usually do. All
right, chums up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
I just waited and the hard work got done for me. What? What do you mean you waited some more? Well, I'll tell you what. Don't get me wrong. We'd go to the movies as a group. We would eat dinner together in large group settings. We would even play games together with like 7 other people. It wasn't my video game skills. It wasn't my intelligence. I wasn't trying to impress her. It was my love for others that wooed her heart. The ability to put myself in her shoes and see what she needed and serve her. But also, she watched over months and months of me do that, not just for her, but for everyone in our group, everyone in our church. I gave equal attention to everyone. She saw me ask good questions, and she saw me dive into caring for people where they were at. That's how I got the girl. This is the simple yet profound truth that Jesus is talking about. It's not about ourselves. It's not about what we want. We have to see the person next to us and their circumstances and ask the question, if I were going through what he or she is going through, what would I want someone to do for me? If I fail a test, how would I want someone to care for me? If I am stressed out because of school or my siblings are frustrating me, how would I want someone to step in and meet my needs there? If you're asking yourself, so Trent, why does this matter to me? That's the right question. Because you're right. Why are you going to take the word of me, some dude who's just talking about how he got this beautiful girl, or the words of Jesus, who you may or may not even believe he exists? Here's the reality. I used to be really good at video games, and I had tried to find my worth in them. And I was good enough that people would call my house from all over the world because the only way they could get a higher rank in the game is by beating me in a one-on-one match. And let me tell you something. There were maybe 5 people in the world that could at that time. I was your age. I was 13, 14. I was really good, but I was empty, and it didn't matter. I tried finding my worth in being better at school and being better at sports, but I was still empty. It didn't matter. There was no life. It wasn't until I started following Jesus that I actually understand what it means to have true life. So that's why I'm here telling you this, because it does matter. And I don't take my word for it. If you legitimately try to follow Jesus, I promise you will experience the best life you'll ever have. You'll have more fulfillment. You'll have more peace. You'll have more joy. That's the beauty, is try it. Prove me wrong. I dare you. Because the reality is you're going to start following Jesus and you're going to realize I was right. And everyone wins. You'll have more joy and I get to be right, which is fun. So how do I demonstrate awareness, Trent? Well, here's my question for you guys. What ways, let's take it to your home. Maybe it's your parent, your sibling, or maybe it's a friend at school. What are some ways that you can be aware of what they need and step into their needs? Talk about that amongst yourselves.
All right, guys. Trent just asked, what are ways you can demonstrate awareness with your siblings, with your parents, or maybe a friend, and maybe give an example as well?
All right. So what I said was this like past fall semester, our core group saw that Wheeler Mission, the ladies there really were in need of a good meal, home cooked meal. So our core group all pitched in and we made a big like Mexican taco dinner and we brought it to them and we just played games and it really helped just cheer them up. And yeah, you could just smell that. You could tell that it put a smile on their face.
Yeah.
I said that during quarantine, your parents could be a little bit like more busy, like they have more things to do around the house since the kids are always there. So I said if you see them getting like really busy and frustrated doing all the things they have to do, maybe do a couple things like load the dishwasher or do the laundry or something like that just to help them out.
Yeah.
So I kind of took this a different direction, and I thought the easiest way to show awareness is to have people talk to you. And if everybody's open with each other, then let's say I start putting my trust in Tyler and start talking to him about personal stuff, he's going to feel like I trust him, and so he will trust me, and he'll be more open with me. And that's the easiest way that people will give you some trust, is to give them some trust.
That's great insight, man. That is fantastic insight, because when you are vulnerable to share what's going on in your life, other people will be vulnerable with their life, and what you do with that and how you exhibit trust through that will just grow friendships, and that will grow one day healthy, like opposite sex relationships with you guys, so yeah, that's really great insight. Thanks so much, guys. We're gonna pass it to Trent to conclude here.
Okay.
My bad.
That's quite all right. So I kind of said that for me right now, one of the person that I'm kind of talking to the most right now would be my brother, and often getting aggravated with him and annoyed with him. And I love how Trent kind of said, just imagine what would you want if they were in their shoes. So one thing that I thought was maybe what would I want if I wasn't being listened to? I would want to be listened to.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely a way that I can help. Like if my brother, even though he's talking about something I'm not super interested in, or his friends aren't super interested in, kind of finding what he would want, and giving that to him, the listening to him. Just an example.
That's so good. And so like realizing that and putting yourself in their shoes, like all of a sudden we're thinking outside of ourselves, and that is a beautiful thing. Good deal. So now we're going to pass it on to Trent.
So here's the kicker. When Jesus talks about our neighbor in that verse, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. He doesn't just mean the people that are nice to us. He means everybody. There's a story that he tells, the same group of Pharisees that had asked him that question. It's a different part in Matthew, but I'm going to paraphrase it. Basically, the story goes like this. There was a man who was robbed and beat up on the side of the road. The people who attacked him left him there to die. A good kid, just plain old good kid. You probably know him. His name's probably Spencer in your class. He was walking down the road. He saw the man lying there, crossed on the other side because he didn't want to deal with it, and kept walking. Next, a man comes down the road. This time, it's a good Christian kid. They go to church on Sunday. He walks down the road. He sees the man lying there, and he too crosses to the other side of the road. He didn't want to get his hands dirty. Then a kid, the kid at school that smells bad, that no one likes, that sits alone at lunch, sees the guy laying on the road, and he has compassion for him. He picks him up and cleans off his wounds and takes him to the hospital. Jesus stops his story and looks straight at the pastors and says, who was this man's neighbor? And the teachers, the pastors answer, the one who had compassion on him. They're not even willing to say the smelly kid. They're not gonna even give him the dignity of that, but they can understand that in Jesus' story, the person who has compassion on other people and who cares for other people, who has awareness for other people, that's what it means to follow Jesus. That's what it means to be a neighbor. So when Jesus then turns it into a different story and says, love your neighbor, you now see the context that that's everybody. That's the smelly kid at school, because Jesus has already demonstrated how he is a neighbor. So this isn't an easy thing. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the easiest thing to do. But what I will tell you is that when you step into loving your neighbor, that's everybody, as you would love yourself, you will experience so much more life. So my challenge for you is experience the good life. Follow Jesus with me, because I promise it'll be better than anything that you're doing now.
All right, so Trent didn't ask this, but I wanted to pick your guys' brain from this message, from what he shared, what did you learn? And maybe how are you going to approach things differently? Or what are you going to apply from this message?
I think that for me, kind of the healthy relationships, the getting outside of yourself is so important right now, especially as we're quarantined, maybe with our families, and kind of I think that definitely something that I'll start applying is remembering to put myself in other people's shoes and realize that kind of I feel like right now everything is so crazy that it's really easy to get kind of stuck inside of yourself. And I feel like for me, the times that I have been able to get kind of out of that and help other people has not only been helpful to them, but has also been helpful to me in kind of just getting outside of my own head a little bit. So that's definitely something that I'll start applying.
Love it.
So I kind of took this away. It wasn't really one of the main points, but I just noticed the patience in him when he waited so long. And I just feel like I could apply that to my life, not only patience with somebody else in trying to make a relationship, but also just patience in general, just waiting and not getting too anxious or being short-tempered, just letting life slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really good lesson, and my takeaway from this was so we always want to try to be nice to others, but it's harder to comfort them if you don't understand them. So try to understand them more so it's easier to comfort them.
It's great. Yeah.
I know, like, kind of like what London said, like with her brother. My brother has, like, since he had to move out of college and everything, it's been kind of an adjustment, like living with him again. And I guess, like, we do get along, but there's some times that we just kind of struggle. And I know one thing is just, like, kind of thinking where he's at and, like, just being in his shoes where, like, he did have to move out of college, and that's also an adjustment for him. And just trying to be patient, I know, especially with him and the rest of my family.
Yeah. That's great insights, guys. Any other thoughts before we wrap it up?
No.
Hey, I appreciate you guys, and I know people that watch this really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. So thanks so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining the conversation on what it looks like to have a healthy relationship. The last 2 weeks we talked about, this today, and then last week we talked about friendship. So next week we're going to take a twist and talk about a different kind of relationship, and the relationship that we have with God. Some of us don't have one at all and don't know how to start, and some of us are down the road and are stuck. So we're going to process through that together. So I can't wait until next week. Have a great week, y'all.